Okay, everyone. So in this video, we're going to see how to do what's called a trace contour overlay of a suspect cast when you're doing a bite mark comparison. But before we jump into that, again, I'd just like to make the disclaimer that I'm not teaching how to do a bite mark analysis or comparison, but simply teaching the Photoshop steps and skills that can be used when doing a bite mark analysis and or comparison. Um, Again, it's kind of just a matter of using the tools that work best in your hands. This is just one of those tools. So here we go. I am going to pull back up my suspect cast. You'll notice that this is the same Photoshop file we've been working in. You'll see all my solid volume overlays there. You'll see my blockouts here. You'll notice from the ruler being backwards that we flipped it. Everything's in the right orientation that we want. So again, this is the same Photoshop file that I've been working in. There's no reason for you to make multiple Photoshop files for each different type of overlay. Just do it all in the same file so that all of your overlays, once you've got them all made, are in the same file. So, like I said, this is going to be our trace contour style overlay, and basically this is a hollow overlay, but it's just done in a little bit different method than the methods used to make what I refer to as the hollow volume overlay. This method is using kind of the computer to highlight the information, and then you're kind of just cleaning that up. So it can kind of be considered a little bit less subjective than how you make the hollow volume overlays, but you're still having to go in and clean up the trace contour. So to me, there's still some subjectivity to it. But anyway, that's the trace contour. So the way that we make that is this is our background copy, and I'm going to do it with this first just to kind of show you something, and then I'll, at the end, make a little caveat statement. But what we want to do is we want to duplicate our background layer. So we're going to duplicate, and I'm going to just leave it called background copy 2, because once we make our overlay, we really don't need this layer again, so I don't really care what it's named. So, okay, we've got our background copy 2, and that's the layer that's active. Again, you want to make sure you're working in the right layer. And then we're going to come up here to Filter, Stylize, and Trace Contour. And now you will notice, which I'm going to, so you can drag this little preview box to where you can actually see some teeth. That's just holding my mouse button down and dragging it. That's all you have to do to get that to work. But you'll notice now that we have what looks like outlines of the teeth. That's pretty cool. That's what we're looking for. And what you do is you're going to drag this little slide bar, and you can see how I'm getting more and more, well, that's just not helpful at all. Like if I stop my little drag bar like right there, you'll see that I've got a ton of noise. I don't really want a ton of noise. What I'm trying to get is I'm trying to get an outline of basically the biting edges, biting surfaces of the teeth. So I'm going to drag my little slider along until I think I've got something that's pretty close to what I want. If you look up here, I'm going to control and plus to kind of zoom in so that we can see things a little bit better. You know, I've got pretty much the incisal edges of my anterior teeth, my canine. I've got a lot of noise on my premolar and molar, but you're not really going to be able to get rid of that without completely, see, it kind of wipes out your anterior teeth, and I don't want that. So I'm going to come back down here to about right there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to say okay. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on our magic wand tool. You'll see here's our magic wand tool. We've got our magic wand, and then you're going to click anywhere in the background. So anywhere you want to in this background, and you'll notice we now have marching ants, and our marching ants are around all these little marks that we have. And so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do layer, new, layer, and we're going to call this one H Trace Contour, because for me, I know that I made this overlay using the trace contour. We're going to say OK. We want to make sure that that new layer is the one that's active. Otherwise, it's going to screw this up. So make sure that's active. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to stroke all of these marching ants. And what do we mean by that? We mean basically we're going to put an outline everywhere that there's a marching ant around this tooth. And the way that we do that is we come up here to Edit, and we say Stroke. And let's say, for all intents and purposes, we want to do, let me pick a different color. Let's say we want to do a red. So we're going to say OK to red, and we're going to click OK. You can kind of see that we now have a red outline there. That's great. That's what we want. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say deselect. So again, you can either do Control D or you can select deselect. So you'll notice we're still seeing stuff underneath it. Well, that's because we still have our background copies on. So if we turn those off, you'll notice we now have a hollow overlay. I'm again going to go Control plus so that I can kind of see this a little bit better. So again, you'll notice it's not quite perfect. We don't have nice clean outlines of our incisal edges. So all you have to do now is come over here to your eraser tool, and you just start erasing all of the stuff you don't want, all the extra stuff. And you'll notice that because we did this trace contour on our background copy, not our blockout, that we do still have the molar teeth showing up. That's fine. It's perfectly okay to do it on your background copy because you now have all the teeth available. And you can always come in here and erase these teeth later. So for example, if I decide I don't want my molar, I literally can just come in here and erase these teeth. So that's what we're going to do. And so you would just sit here and you would continue erasing all the little extra marks that you think you don't want, don't need. This is our canine, so I probably don't need all that noise right there. Realistically, that's really not marking. That's maybe not marking either. So let's say I wanted to just kind of tweak this just a little bit. The way I would do that is I'd erase what I don't need. Well, now I can't see my teeth to outline, so I'm going to turn my background. I'm going to turn my background copy back on. Now I can see my teeth. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get my pencil tool. And you'll notice that my pencil tool is like super, super fine. That's okay. If you wanted to make it just a little bit bigger, you can, but you're going to be making a really thick mark. You don't want to make a real thick mark. You want to make a pretty narrow line so that you're not covering up stuff on your bite mark when you transfer these over. So we're going to go back up here to, I'm actually just going to type it in, 2 pixels. You'll notice down here in my color box, I'm red. That's great, since that's the color that I'm using. You again want to make sure that you're still in this trace contour layer. That's the layer that this marking is actually going to show up in. Then you can just use your pencil tool to kind of outline the area that maybe you didn't like from the trace contour. And now if I turn my eyeball off, you'll notice that that marking is now on our canine like we want it to be. And that's how you kind of can clean up your trace contour. Again, if you think it's easier to clean it up while you're looking at the teeth underneath, that's fine. Just turn your eyeball on your background copy, but make sure that your trace contour layer is still the active layer. Otherwise, I'll show you what happens. Like if I were to accidentally be in my background copy while I'm doing this, so just for show and tell purposes, let's say I'm drawing there. Well, once I turn my eyeball off of my trace contour, I now have that mark on my background copy. I don't want it on my background copy, so that's a big oops. And really the only way to do that is we have to undo layer visibility, and then we have to undo pencil. So it takes it away. You'll notice now there's nothing on my background copy. I can come back in here to my trace contour. Again, make sure that you're in the right layer, that the right layer is active when you're doing this kind of cleanup stuff. But like I said, you can leave your background copy on while you're cleaning this up so you can kind of see exactly where those teeth outline are. Again, I maybe don't want that part of it. I think that maybe this is a little bit more accurate for what may have actually made the mark in the bite mark. So I'm going to kind of adjust that there. So again, you can turn, like I said, you can turn your background copy on so that you can see your teeth while you're doing this cleanup. Once you kind of get back here to these back teeth and things are a little bit tighter in terms of cleaning it up, just change your eraser size. Again, this little box up here, make sure your eraser bigger, make sure your eraser smaller. So just kind of use your eraser and your pencil tool to clean this up however you think it needs to be cleaned up. So my little caveat that I was going to say is I'm going to back out. So again, you'll notice we did that. We made our trace contour from our background copy, which is fine. That gives you all of the teeth available in your trace contour. If you've already decided, hey, I don't need my molars, I know they didn't make a mark in the bite mark, you can kind of save yourself just a little bit of cleanup by doing this from your block out, because again, we've already blocked out those molars. We've basically selected the teeth we think made the mark in our block out. So you would do the exact same steps. Okay, so like I said, we've already blocked out what teeth we don't think we need. So we can do the same exact thing, making a trace contour from our block out. You're going to duplicate the layer, and again, I'm fine with it being called block out copy. So we're now have our block out copy active. We come up here to filter, stylize, trace contour. Again, the same little box pops up here. I'm going to move that where I can actually see teeth. You're going to sit here and you're going to change the level again until it's close to how you want it. So let's say okay, I think that's pretty good. You say okay. You get your magic wand. You click anywhere in the background to get you your marching ants. I'm going to back up so that you can see again marching ants around not only the teeth but the border. Then you have to do layer, new, layer. We're going to call this H trace contour 2 since I'm about to make a second trace contour. I'm going to hit OK. Now remember, to get marks to show up, we have to stroke what we've selected. So you come up here to edit, stroke. If you wanted to make a thicker line, here is where you would do it. Again, I don't generally have this higher than 2 or 3 because I don't want a really thick line. Again, covering up information on my bite mark photograph when we start looking at the overlays on top of that. But I'll show you how thick it makes it if we go up to 5. Again, I want red because I'm doing all of my hollow overlays in red for the same suspect. So we make sure we're red. Good, 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 good. We say okay. And ta-da! Now you just deselect, so Control D, and you can see how thick that line is. I'm going to turn off again all of my eyeballs for everything but that trace contour layer. You would sit here and do the same thing, get your eraser tool, and you would clean up your extra stuff you don't need. And then it would be done. Again, I'll just show you the comparison between. So you can see the thickness difference even from just 2 pixels to 5 pixels. Again, that's completely up to you what size pixels you want to use for the thickness of your outline. But I like, again, 2 or 3 just because it gives a finer line and I'm not losing information when I put it on top of my bite mark. So that's how you make trace contour overlays. Again, just like anything else, we want to make sure that we are saving our work. So again, just File, Save, and that will save your trace contour overlays in your Photoshop file for Suspect H, where you've already made your solid volume. Just another little thing that you can do that will kind of keep things cleaned up. You really don't need this block out copy anymore once you've stroked your trace contour. So we can right click and we can say delete layer. Again, if you're uncomfortable deleting a layer, you don't know if you need it again. If you're just unsure, don't delete it. But if you're comfortable and you recognize that we really don't need that layer anymore, you can delete it, and that just kind of keeps you from having extra layers you don't need over here in your layer list. But there you have it. That's the trace contour overlay.